evening. The stage is set with the formal announcements by both India and China for the Mamallapuram informal summit between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping on the 11th and 12th of October. This will be the second informal summit between the two leaders of the two world powers after Wuhan in April last year. Our in focus tonight is Mamallapuram informal summit taking Wuhan spirit forward. That key Union Cabinet decisions that will benefit 5,300 displaced families of Jammu and Kashmir, farmers across the country and central government employees and pensioners. Takeaways from Raksha Mantri's Rajnath Singh's visit to France, updates from poll-bound states and more in this edition of Newsnight. I'm Unman Bhattacharya. First up, the headlines. Chinese President Xi Jinping to visit India from 11th to 12th October for the second informal summit. The summit will be held in the coastal town of Mamallapuram in Tamil Nadu. Union Cabinet approves inclusion of 5,300 displaced families of Jammu and Kashmir in the rehabilitation package approved by government in 2016. Families who initially opted to move outside J&K and settle in other parts of the country but later returned and settled in the state will be benefited, each family to be given 5.5 lakh rupees. Cabinet also approves relaxation of Aadhaar seeding of data of beneficiaries under Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. Scheme provides income support of 6,000 rupees per year to landholding families. The amount will be released directly to the bank accounts of the beneficiaries through DBT mode. IPS probationers of 2018 batch call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. PM asks them to imbibe service orientation and dedication in their day-to-day work, stresses on the importance for the police force to be connected with ordinary citizens. Campaigning gains momentum in poll-bound states. BJP President Amit Shah addresses a series of rallies in Haryana, slams the Congress for its stand on Article 370. And Nobel Prize in Chemistry awarded to John Goodenough of US, Britain's Stanley Whittingham and Japan's Akira Yoshino for development of lithium-ion batteries that sparked portable technology revolution. They will share 9 million Swedish krona prize equally. At our focus tonight, over 17 months after the first informal summit in the Chinese city of Wuhan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping are all set to take the Wuhan spirit forward. The two leaders will meet for the second informal summit on 11th and 12th October at Mamallapuram, which is around 50 kilometers from Chennai and is famous for its heritage monuments built in the 7th and 8th centuries. Mamallapuram also has a key place in the history of India-China relationship. Here's what to expect broadly from the summit and the importance of Mamallapuram as the venue for it.
Two major world powers, two major economies, and two world leaders known for their distinct leadership styles. All eyes are on the second informal summit between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping at Mamallapuram on 11th and 12th October. When the Chinese President reaches Chennai on 11th October for the informal summit, the two leaders are expected to take forward the spirit that underpinned the first informal summit between the two leaders in Wuhan in April 2018. The unrestricted meeting at Mamallapuram won't be bound by specific issues. Interactions between the two leaders are expected to be candid and freewheeling, in tune with the Wuhan informal summit. The Ministry of External Affairs has stated that the forthcoming Chennai informal summit will provide an opportunity for the two leaders to continue their discussions on overarching issues of bilateral, regional and global importance and to exchange views on deepening India-China closer development partnership.
We are striving for a fair, reasonable and mutual acceptable solution to the boundary question. And before the final settlement of the boundary question, we need to jointly maintain peace and tranquility in the border areas. Here I would like to point it out that it is normal for neighbors to have differences.
Located around 50 kilometers from Chennai, Mamallapuram is an ancient town that houses a group of heritage monuments including the Shore Temple, 5 Ratha, Arjuna's penance, also known as the descent of Ganga, and Krishna's butterball. Mamallapuram is being decked up for the informal summit. Located in Kanchipuram district, Mamallapuram is a key cultural center and one of the 2 major port cities of the 7th century within the Pallava kingdom. Chinese traveller Hunsang visited Kanchipuram during the Pallava dynasty in the 7th century. Chinese coins found during the excavation at Mamallapuram bear testimony to the ancient links between India and China. From spreading Lord Buddha's teaching in China to trade through the Silk Route, cooperation between India and China go back several centuries. With India and China having emerged as 2 major global powers, the Mamallapuram Informal Summit looks set to strengthen strategic understanding between the leadership of India and China across all fronts and provide guidance for the future trajectory of bilateral ties. Bureau Report, DD News.
So the stage is set for the Mamallapuram Informal Summit between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Here's what to expect from the Mamallapuram Informal Summit. Sources have told Doordarshan News that the objective of this summit is the same as that of Wuhan Summit. So the objective is the same as the Wuhan Summit that was held in April last year, which was to build contacts at the highest level. So in order to improve strategic understanding between the leadership of the 2 countries, the Mamallapuram Summit is being held. Besides that, sources have told DT News that PM Modi supports the idea of hosting dignitaries outside Delhi, and that's the reason why Prime Minister has been hosting top global dignitaries in places outside Delhi, like in Varanasi, Ahmedabad, etc. Sources have also said that President Xi Jinping is interested in history and culture, and that's the reason why Mamallapuram, which is 50 kilometers from Chennai and is known for its heritage monuments, has been chosen as the venue for this informal summit. Sources have said that no agreements or memoranda of understanding is likely to be signed during this summit, the same as was the case in the Wuhan summit. Sources also say that people-to-people ties to be special focus of the summit in view of 70 years of diplomatic ties. So there may be greater understanding to enhance people-to-people ties between India and China. Sources say that regional, global and WTO-related issues are likely to be discussed. So WTO-related issues will be linked to global trade. So that gives us a broad understanding of the kind of issues that could be taken up as per our sources. And here's the outcome of the Wuhan Informal Summit. That's extremely important because we are now building up to the Mamallapuram Summit, taking forward the Wuhan spirit. So these are the outcomes. Leaders agreed that peaceful, stable and balanced relations between India and China will be a positive factor for stability amidst global uncertainties. So that was the broad understanding in the Wuhan summit. What else was agreed upon? Leaders agreed to build on convergences through established mechanisms. So the idea was to focus more on convergences than on divergences. Besides that, leaders agreed both sides have maturity and wisdom to handle differences through a peaceful discussion, and that differences should not be allowed to become disputes. So that was also the broad understanding. Besides that, leaders urged special representatives to intensify efforts to seek a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable settlement of the boundary question at the earliest, and it is expected that the next SR level talks dates could well be decided during this informal summit. We need to wait and watch for that. Besides that, leaders underscored the importance of maintaining peace and tranquility in all areas of the Indo-China border region. This is important because these talks, that is the Wuhan summit, took place in the backdrop of the Doklam issue that lasted for around 73 days between India and China. Leaders issued strategic guidance to their respective militaries to strengthen communication, to build trust, mutual understanding and enhance predictability and effectiveness in management of broader affairs. So that strategic guidance was given, and this was one of the most important takeaways of the Wuhan summit, coming as it did after the Doklam issue. Besides that, leaders directed their militaries to earnestly implement confidence-building measures, strengthen existing institutional arrangements and information sharing mechanisms to prevent incidents in border regions. So it's in order to ensure that there are no border incidents because of the fact that there is no demarcation or delineation of the India-China border. These issues were agreed upon. Besides that, leaders agreed to push forward bilateral trade and investment in a balanced and sustainable manner. This is important because bilateral trade has reached in 2018 to well over $95 billion now, and thus it is closing in to the $100 billion mark, and there is a problem of trade deficit currently, though there has been a reduction in 15% in the last 5 years or so in India's favor, but the trade deficit is still there, substantially upwards of $57 billion. Leaders agreed to establish new mechanisms to promote cultural and people-to-people exchanges. So this is going to be a continuing theme, is what we have got to know from our sources. Sources have told DD News that cultural and people-to-people exchanges will continue to be a point of focus during the Mamallapuram informal summit as well. Leaders agreed to jointly contribute to facilitating sustainable solutions for global challenges, and since then we've seen how Prime Minister Narendra Modi has mooted ideas like the coalition on disaster resilient infrastructure. In the past, in 2015, PM came up with the idea of the International Solar Alliance. PM has come forward with the idea of doing away with or giving up single-use plastic, that also found resonance at the United Nations. Leaders agreed to pool their expertise and resources together to create a global network to counter these challenges. And India has particularly shown a lot of global leadership on resolving or addressing these major global challenges like climate change and any challenge to sustainable development, etc. Besides that, leaders underscored the need for reform of multilateral financial and political institutions to make them more representative and responsive to the needs of developing countries. This could well be a continuing point of focus getting into the Mamallapuram informal summit. This can be seen in the context of India's push for a reformed United Nations Security Council, or India's entries into the NSG, for instance, among other issues like reforms of the IMF and the World Bank. Leaders are committed to cooperation in counter-terrorism. This was extremely important because that was the time when the issue of Maulana Masood Azhar was not resolved. That issue was resolved this year in 2019, and that reiteration of commitment was extremely important from the Chinese side, that the China too is against all forms of terrorism, in all forms and manifestations. Leaders agreed on utility of holding more such informal exchanges of views in future, and that in fact formed the basis of Mamallapuram informal summit, the second summit taking place in 2 years. The informal Wuhan summit was the first of its kind between India and China, and that Wuhan spirit is being taken forward. We'll take a break at this point in time. After the break, we'll discuss how the Mamallapuram informal summit is going to take that Wuhan spirit forward like we've been talking about. Stay tuned.
दिन भर की सुर्खियों पर नजर, देश दुनिया की 100 बड़ी खबरें सिर्फ 30 मिनट में। एक्सप्रेस न्यूज सोमवार से शुक्रवार सुबह 9 बजे और रात 9:30 बजे सिर्फ टीवी न्यूज पर।
Welcome back. Our in focus tonight is Mamallapuram informal summit taking Wuhan spirit forward. To talk about that, we have with us S.R. Dayal, former ambassador, and Alok Bansal, strategic affairs analyst and director, India Foundation. I welcome you both to Newsnight. I'll begin with you, Alok Bansal. The Wuhan summit took place in April 2018 in the backdrop of the Doklam issue that lasted then around 73 days, and that ice was finally broken. And we saw how that summit resulted in a better strategic understanding between the leadership of the two countries. In the current context, what do you expect from the Mamallapuram informal summit?
See, firstly, the Wuhan summit took place at a time when there was a lot of tensions between the two countries. We have had undergone Doklam and all. What Wuhan did was that it created an understanding between the two leaders that helped to resolve a lot of pending issues, and in fact a lot of de-escalation took place and a Wuhan spirit was created whereby give and take was accepted, and steps were taken not to aggravate things. Now at this point of time when we meet, there are a lot of issues that are actually hanging fire. One is of course the immediate past, on 5th of August when we removed certain provisions of Article 370 and made 35A infructuous. There were certain statements coming from China which were a little hostile in their intent, because China said that this is actually an infringement of their sovereignty and things like that. It was subsequently explained to them that this is nothing of that sort. I think their claim remains what their claim is, our claim remains what our claim is. The ground position does not change. And immediately after that, of course, China insisted on an informal meeting of United Nations Security Council on this particular issues. But just before this summit, now we have again started seeing the Chinese stance changing, where they have said that Pakistan and India should resolve it bilaterally, and they have actually reverted back from what they had made statements earlier. Now, when we meet this time, I think the two leaders will come to an understanding. There is no agenda. They will discuss, of course, what the MEA said, that the Kashmir is not on the thing, but if they want some clarifications, it will be given. What is even more important is that we have a regional comprehensive economic partnership agreement, which is actually very, very important, because which virtually brings almost half the population of the world, almost half 40% of the GDP of the world coming into one economic grouping, and that's very, very important, because as far as India and China are concerned, we have several issues concerning trade. We have a huge adverse balance of trade with China, but probably in a multilateral arrangement we should be able to greater access to Chinese market, and also may be able to balance what we lose out at one end probably with other in trading with other countries. And of course the selection of Mamallapuram is very, very significant, because it signifies historical linkages between the two countries.
Right.
This is what is very, very important, that we need to understand that China and India have linkages which go back centuries. In fact, when the world looked at ancient India, it looked through the eyes of Chinese visitors. When we want to talk about ancient Indian history, people do refer to the accounts of Fayan, Huensang, etc., because they provided you wonderful account of what was happening in India. In fact, when this took a lot of efforts to reach this place. The fact is that they traveled for years to reach this place and stayed here for years, and then of course wrote their accounts. And this is what is significant, that even today in interior China, if you go, there is huge reverence for India's spirituality and scholarship. I think, which is not probably evident when we go to coastal China, to Shanghai or Beijing, but when you go to hinterland, Chinese hinterland, you realize that we are similar civilizations, we are similar cultures. Family is important, like in India, in China as well. Whereas the Western civilizations are quite different, because they're individual centric rather than being family centric as Indian and Chinese civilizations are. So there are a lot of similarities, but over last few decades there has been an environment of apprehensions. Because of 1962, there are various apprehensions. Each step taken by one country is viewed with suspicion in the other country. Now this sort of meetings help to build mutual confidence, and they will, I think, allay the mistrust that the two countries have about each other. And I think that is where it is important. I think after this particular conference we may probably go for greater economic engagement, because there are parts of India which were actually as the crossroads of international trade routes, like Leh, etc. Unfortunately, after 49, Leh's significance as a crossroads of international trade routes had diminished. Probably after these sort of meetings we could probably revive some of these trade routes which used to go from Leh to China, to Tibet, to Central Asia, and to Afghanistan, etc. I think
some very interesting points, Alok ji, you've made. But Mr. Kayal, does the strategic choice of the location tie in well with one of the objectives of this Mamallapuram informal summit, to forge deeper cultural links and people-to-people ties?
That of course is very important, but I would say that the Mamallapuram meeting is very important because of course Xi Jinping is an undisputed leader of China, and perhaps there will not be two-term limit for him in future. and Prime Minister Modi has just 5 months back has come with this resounding victory back in power, and will certainly be leader of our country for the next 5 years. So what will be most important for the two leaders is to share their vision. What is their vision for Asia? What is their vision for the world? How do they see China's, we see China's role there, and how does China see India's role there? I think on that level there is a very necessity of the two leaders to come to some kind of an understanding, because once they give a direction, then the entire system in China, entire system in India will follow that direction, whether it is the Chinese military, whether it is the Chinese trade negotiator, or whether there are Chinese statements in the United Nations. Second, where the two leaders have to discuss is whether Pakistan should be allowed to cast its evil shadow on India-China relations. Will China want relations with India to be hostage to their relations with Pakistan?
Is China keen on a
That's a
dehyphenation?
very important question. With India, they have a $90 billion trade. India is not dependent on them. If they are in fact the biggest, very big beneficiary of trade with India, whereas Pakistan is a liability. And also, what kind of Pakistan does China is looking for? Will it be a haven for terrorists? Will it be a very Islamic oriented and a very religion dominated society? Is it in the interest of China, which has in Xinjiang their own Muslim majority province? So at a very conceptual level, at a very fundamental level, if the two leaders come to some understanding, it will have very beneficial effect. And of course the trade between India and China, that is again a very, very important issue, because ultimately President Xi Jinping has to realize that unemployment in India, employment in India is a very, very major concern for Indian leadership. And Make in India is very important. We have to move from 15% manufacturing to 25% manufacturing, which is a very, very declared
goal,
objective of our government.
Yes.
And this continued trade imbalance, which will only increase, that will hamper that, and that is not in the interest of even China.
Fair
so
enough.
how to reduce the trade gap, and of course it has its repercussions on RCEP. We want to keep Chinese goods out of RCEP concessions for at least a decade, if not more, and China must understand that, Chinese negotiators must understand that, that ultimately a government functions for the benefit of its citizens. It is not that some kind of a mantra that we have to go for free trade. Of course we will go for free trade, but ultimately it is should be in the interests of people of India as well as in the interests of people of China. So a direction from Xi Jinping to his trade negotiators in RCEP that okay, you please allow India to have a longer period for traffic concessions will go a long way in improving trade and investment relationship between India and China.
Okay, Mr. Bansal, I listed out a lot of the key takeaways of the Wuhan Informal Summit earlier. They include an understanding between the leadership of the two sides that there should be India-China relationship should be a factor of stability in order to give a boost to stability amid global uncertainties. Besides that, differences should not be allowed to spiral out of control and become disputes, which was the Astana understanding as well. The point that Mr. Dayal made, that the trade relationship should be balanced and the trade deficit should be reduced. And besides that, the two leadership also said that the two sides have the maturity to deal with differences, and a strategic guidance was given to militaries to have more predictability in management of border affairs. How would you see the last 1 year in terms of implementation of these takeaways?
By and large, things have been fine. Of course, as I said, strategic guidance to the militaries as far as management of border regions is concerned. It's a issue which is been resolved to a very great extent, but there are problems which will always remain, because as far as border is concerned, the two countries have different perceptions of their borders. If we actually abide by the clear-cut understanding which we have arrived, that whenever the two patrols meet, they need to break engagement and reverse back, things can be resolved. But there have been instances where we have seen that there have been differences, and even recently we saw some amount of face-off or something between the two militaries. That's been there. But by and large, on international arena, as far as free trade, etc. is concerned, we have been more or less on the similar field. On comprehensive economic partnership agreement, of course, we are trying to strike a hard bargain. We hopefully get it. But as I said, in recent past, one of the issues that has actually afflicted is China's relations with Pakistan, and China's often statements that come on issues reflecting Pakistan, because we had an issue of Masood Azhar, which took some time. I think in the spirit of Wuhan, finally it got resolved when China voted along with the international community in designating him a global terrorist. Similarly, on Jammu and Kashmir recently, they made certain statements. I think a time has come when we need to break out of the mold and offer something different. I think China is dependent on Pakistan because it feels that CPEC is an important ingredient of their Belt and Road initiative, on which President Xi Jinping has invested his own personal stake, because that is his project. And so I think maybe we need to look at some alternatives, maybe Karakoram to Kandla, road through which we could probably have trade both with China as well as with Central Asia, or things like that. Maybe we may need to wean away China away from Pakistan, because within China there are a number of scholars who realize that CPEC is dead and it's actually not going to work out. There are also people who are extremely concerned about jihadi terrorism that's been breeding in Pakistan and has been afflicting neighboring parts of China. So we need to, I think, emphasize upon China that I think we have a long distance to travel and we need to go further, because please understand, if the two countries come together, it will be a big achievement, because both the countries have a lot to gain. We are both rising powers, we are huge economies, huge population. We actually comprise 1/3 of the global population. So it's a huge numbers, and I think whatever the roadblocks are primarily stem from apprehensions and the baggages of history. So if we actually start looking at issues de novo, I think we will have the opportunity to move forward.
One outcome of the Wuhan summit, Ambassador Tayal, was that India and China agreed to jointly train Afghan diplomats. That training is underway. The second batch of Afghan diplomats is currently being trained jointly by India and China. Do such decisions and their implementation strengthen strategic understanding between countries like India and China?
Very much so. I think China should be in a little more receptive mood. President Xi Jinping also should be in a little more receptive mood, because the last 3 decades China has been rising without any hitch, without any roadblock, without any obstacle, and suddenly the world has realized that China's rise perhaps is not so peaceful as they claim that it is, and it is being challenged. In America there is bipartisan support for President Trump's policy, if it's only on one issue, and that is taking on China and not allowing it to become superpower one. And then what is happening in Hong Kong, etc. So China, suddenly there is some reality check in China, and so President Xi Jinping perhaps will be a little more modest in its demands and in its appreciation of the issues. Having said that, let me say that it is a very ongoing process. Of course, there is trust deficit between India and China. Let us not be wishy-washy about it. But there can certainly be more understanding between India and China, and we have always respected the core concerns of China, whether it is Taiwan and now Tibet also we have respected. China should understand India's core concern and Kashmir and trade and whatever are the issues, that they have to respect and understand our core concerns, and only then Asia's two giants can move forward in a friendly way. And if the two move forward in a friendly way, it is very good for the entire region, Asia as well as the world. So there is a lot which the two leaders can achieve together, but it will depend on what place China gives to India in its scheme of things globally.
Mr. Bansal, you've been saying that China has gone back to its traditional stand on the Kashmir issue, saying that this is a bilateral matter, this is really for India and Pakistan to discuss and sort it out. Would you say that this would act as an enabling factor for a fruitful informal summit?
I do agree, although the statement says that Kashmir is not on the agenda. In fact, there is no agenda. But what the MEA has said is that in case he wants clarifications or wants some inputs, we would probably present it. So I think that's one way where we could probably move forward. But as I said, when you flip-flop, you can again make a flip-flop and actually go back to something else. So that feasibility is always there. But it's a positive development. The latest statement coming from the spokesperson of the Chinese MEA is what they have been saying traditionally, saying that it's an issue to be resolved peacefully, bilaterally by the two countries. And this comes at a time when Pakistani Prime Minister is there in China. So that shows that despite his presence in China, they have come out with this statement.
Yes.
And I think it's significant, and I think we need to give credence to it.
Now, Ambassador Thayal, the issue of reform of multilateral political and financial institutions was taken up during the Wuhan summit. Do you expect that to be a continuing thing, given that India has been for over a decade now been saying that there should be reform and expansion of the UNSC. China is a permanent member of the UNSC, and besides that, China has had a particular position insofar as India's energy membership is concerned, which India would, want reformed over a period of time.
I am afraid I am not very optimistic, because China in its thinking is not ready to treat India as an equal, and it wants that the monopoly of veto and UN Security Council permanent membership for Asia should remain with it. So I don't expect any advance there. On nuclear suppliers group also, I think we should not make it a very big issue. We have got all the advantages of nuclear trade, etc. Without being a member of the nuclear suppliers group, I don't think we should invest. I feel we should not beg China for anything. We should not ask China for anything. We should just tell them these are the facts, and this is what our aspirations are, this is what our expectations are, and we'll see how you react and how you respond. Our Prime Minister should, I am sure, will speak from a position of strength. He has the backing of 130 crore people, and he is undisputed leader of our country, and our economy is growing, and I am sure China understands when you speak with power. What we did in Deklam, what our forces did in Deklam, I think it was an absolute lesson for China, that they cannot push India around. And of course we want to be friendly with China. Prime Minister Modi has said time and again that Shangri-La statement was very, very important about Indo-Pacific, etc. But if China has evil designs on India, if China does not want to see India rise, then we have Quad, we have all kinds of other things, and so China must understand that India is a big country. India cannot be pushed around, but India can be a very valuable friend in case China wants.
Okay. Mr. Bansal, largely speaking, are we looking at incremental progress only instead of sudden outcomes? Is that really the underpinning of any informal summit between leaders?
See, I feel if you join Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, there will be a sudden transformation as far as trade relationship is concerned. As far as borders are concerned, please understand we can only look for incremental change. It is an issue which cannot be resolved in haste. It's a very complicated issue, and this probably needs to be frozen for the time being and may need to be resolved at a later date. But yes, there are issues on which we can have a significant transformation. One is people to people contact, because all said and done, the trust deficit that exists is far more between populations rather than the governments, and I think that's even more important, that if the people come and there is a significant number of Indians today who are going to China, but they are primarily going to the big towns, the big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, etc., and Guangzhou, etc. But Chinese are not coming in that many numbers to India, and I think to that extent, I think we need to improve connectivity. I think one of the proposals that I have always been saying, that the Lido-Stilwell road needs to be started, so that people from southwestern part of China like Kunming, etc., can come to India, because all said and done, the Buddhist tourism circuit holds a special appeal for China. Though it's officially an atheist country, but when Chinese come to Bodh Gaya, I have seen the reverence that they show, including party members. So it is a thing which should be, I think, tapped. But as I said, overall, if you expect that there will be a sudden transformation, that's not going to happen. I feel on economic, on trade, connectivity, we can see a significant changes if there is a will as far as both the countries are concerned. But on border issues or security issues, you can at best look at incremental changes.
Absolutely. So low-hanging fruit on some fronts and incremental progress on others. Thank you, Alok Bansal and Ambassador Tayal, for having joined us in Newsnight tonight. Well, the Union Cabinet took a slew of decisions today that touch upon a range of sectors. It approved the inclusion of 5,300 displaced families of J&K who initially opted to move outside the state but later returned and settled in the state of J&K, terming the decision as one aimed at correcting a historic wrong. Besides that, it approved relaxation of Aadhaar seeding of data for beneficiaries of Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi and a 5% DA hike for central government employees and pensioners. Here's more.
The Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Modi, on Wednesday approved the inclusion of 5,300 displaced families of Jammu and Kashmir 1947 who initially opted to move outside J&K but later on returned and settled in the valley. In the rehabilitation package approved by the Cabinet on 30th November 2016, the approval will enable such families to become eligible to get one-time financial assistance of 5.5 lakh rupees under the existing scheme and in turn be able to get sustained income which the existing scheme is aimed at. Union Minister Prakash Javadekar said a historical wrong has been corrected by the government.
महत्वपूर्ण फैसले में इन सभी 5,300 डिस्प्लेस परिवारों को भी ये 5.5 लाख रुपए प्रति परिवार देने का एक ऐतिहासिक निर्णय हुआ. ये उनके साथ न्याय हुआ है.
And then came a government bonanza for central government employees and pensioners. The Union Cabinet also approved to release an additional installment of DNS allowance to central government employees and DNS relief to pensioners with effect from 1st July this year, representing an increase of 5% over the existing rate of 12% of the basic pay or the pension to compensate for price rise. This increase is in accordance with the accepted formula, which is based on the recommendations of the 7th Central Pay Commission.
DA में 5% हुई है. पिछले अनेक सालों में 2 या 3% ही ग्रोथ होती थी. इस बार लगभग 16,000 करोड़ रुपए इसके एवरेज में दिए जाएंगे और इसका फायदा लगभग 50 लाख केंद्र सरकार के कर्मचारी और 65 लाख जिनको पेंशन मिलता है उनको मिलेगा.
The Union Cabinet was also apprised of the progress under the National Health Mission and decisions of the Empowered Program Committee and the Mission Steering Group of the National Health Mission.
हमें पूरा उम्मीद है कि जो 2030 तक का गोल है सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंटल गोल्स के अंदर जो टारगेट है कि भाई मैटरनल मोर्टालिटी 70 तक पहुंचानी है या अंडर 5 मोर्टालिटी 25 तक पहुंचानी है, ये सब जो गोल्स हैं इनको हम समय से पहले पूरा करेंगे.
Decisions have also been taken for the welfare of the farmers. The Union Cabinet has approved the relaxation of the mandatory requirement of Aadhaar seeded data as a precondition for release of funds to the beneficiaries under the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme. The scheme provides income support of 6,000 rupees per year to landholding families subject to certain exclusions. The amount is released in 3-4 monthly installments of 2,000 rupees each directly to the bank accounts of the beneficiaries through the DBT mode. With inputs from Shailendra Mishra, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the at-home reception by Chief of Air Staff at the Air House in New Delhi. Prime Minister visited the exhibition, IAF Innovation Display. The theme of the exhibition was self-reliance through innovation and indigenization. PM Modi released the commemorative stamp of the Marshal of Indian Air Force, Arjan Singh. 126 IPS probationers of 2018 batch called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi today. Interacting with them, Prime Minister enthused the young officers to work tirelessly with dedication for the betterment of the nation. Prime Minister asked the officers to imbibe service orientation and dedication in their day-to-day work. So Prime Minister asking them to tirelessly work for the benefit of the nation. Each officer should understand the citizen's perspective about police force was also a point that the Prime Minister stressed on. Each officer should work towards making police force citizen-friendly and approachable. So this was the message of the Prime Minister to IPS probationers. He said that the role of police should be focused on crime prevention. Prime Minister highlighted the importance of technology in creating a modern police force. So essentially the Prime Minister stressing on the need to integrate technology, focus on crime prevention. Discussion on the role of police in transforming aspirational districts and as instruments of social change also took place during that meeting. Prime Minister lauded a large number of women probationers in the 2018 batch. More number of women in police force will have a huge positive impact on policing and nation building was what the Prime Minister said. Some updates from poll-bound state of Haryana now. Home Minister and BJP's National President Amit Shah campaigned for the party in Haryana today, where he took on the Congress over the issue of integration of J&K and acquisition of Rafale fighter planes. The elections in Haryana are scheduled to take place on the 21st of October alongside Maharashtra. Here's more.
Electioneering is picking up pace in poll-bound Haryana. BJP chief Amit Shah on Wednesday addressed public rallies in Kaithal and Bhiwani, attacking the Congress over abrogation of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir. Amit Shah said BJP has done what 3 generations of Congress could not do.
कई लोग आए, कई लोग चले गए, 3 पीढ़ियों तक शासन करा, मगर हिम्मत नहीं थी धारा 370 हटाने की। ये हरियाणा की जनता ने मोदी जी को प्रधानमंत्री बनाया, पहले ही संसद के सत्र के अंदर धारा 370 को हटाकर कश्मीर को भारत का अभिन्न अंग बनाया।
Talking about Rafale fighter aircraft, Amit Shah said Prime Minister Narendra Modi made acquisition of the fighter aircraft a reality for India, and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh performed Shastra Puja on Vijayadashmi. However, the Congress turned it into an issue for criticism. BJP chief also said ahead of polls to the states of Haryana and Maharashtra, Congress is directionless.
चुनाव शुरू हुआ है और चुनाव इस प्रकार से शुरू हुआ है कि हमारे विरोधियों को मालूम ही नहीं पड़ता कि पूरब से शुरू करे, पश्चिम से करे, उत्तर से करे, दक्षिण को करे, कोई दिशा सूझती नहीं है। अब उनको राजनीति कहां से शुरू करनी, क्या करना, मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में दिशा का भी भान नहीं रहा।
Meanwhile, former Haryana party president of the Congress party, Ashok Tawar, has turned into a rebel. After resigning from the party, he has pledged to campaign against those responsible for Congress's downfall, including former Chief Minister Bhupinder Singh Hooda. With bureau inputs, Newsnight desk, DD India.
Today was the last day of filing nominations for elections to chairpersons of block development councils in 310 blocks of Jammu and Kashmir. The scrutiny of nominations will be held on 10th October and the last date of withdrawal of nominations is 11th October. The process of elections for the second tier of Panchayati Raj system will be completed by the 5th of November. Elections are being held on party basis and 26,629 panchs and sarpanchs are eligible to vote and contest for the post of PDC chairpersons. There is a fresh trouble from within for the Congress ahead of assembly polls in Haryana and Maharashtra. As the Congress struggles to find its feet even 5 months after its defeat in Lok Sabha polls, senior party leader Salman Khurshid has said it is high time the party analyzes the reasons for its defeat to understand the message of the verdict. He said the party could not carry out the analysis because Rahul Gandhi walked away, leaving a vacuum in the party. After internal dissensions became public with the marginalization of Sanjay Nirupam and resignation of Ashok Tanwar, Salman Khurshid's statement could do more harm than good to the electoral prospects of the Congress.
For Haryana and Maharashtra elections, the contest may be between BJP and the Congress, but it is the infighting that is taking place within the Congress that is making news. Senior leader of Congress, Salman Khurshid, has spoken against his own party. He said the situation that Congress finds itself in, it is difficult to win the assembly elections in Haryana and Maharashtra. The party is going through a difficult time and may be finding it challenging to chart out its future course. He also said the party's biggest problem is that their leader, Rahul Gandhi, has walked away.
लौटने के लिए पूरी तैयारी हमारी हो जाए, इसके लिए पार्टी को तुरंत, बहुत कम समय है, तुरंत कुछ कदम उठाने होंगे. कुछ हमने उठाए हैं, कुछ कदम और उठाने होंगे. अब इसमें अगर कुछ विलंब हुआ है तो उसका कारण मैंने ये बताया कि ये हुआ कि हमारे नेता राहुल गांधी जी हमें छोड़ गए और उसका तात्पर्य ये है कि वो हमारे अध्यक्ष थे.
Senior Congress leader Salman Khurshid said the Congress could not analyze reasons for the party's debacle in the Lok Sabha polls held in May this year. Soon after the elections, Rahul Gandhi announced that he would no longer stay Congress president, a post that he had taken in 2017 from his mother Sonia Gandhi. The Congress secured only 52 of the 542 parliamentary seats in the last general elections, as against 303 won by Bharatiya Janata Party. Congress's troubles have mounted as many leaders are leaving the party. Senior leaders in Haryana and Maharashtra have quit Congress. In September, former Haryana Pradesh Congress chief Ashok Tanwar announced his resignation from the primary membership of the party. In Maharashtra, Sanjay Nirupam has expressed resentment and said he will not participate in the poll activities. Haryana and Maharashtra go to polls on 21st October. Newsnight Desk, DD News.
Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad today visited Patna Medical College to inquire about the well-being of dengue patients treated at the hospital. Around 35 patients are being treated at PMCH, that is Patna Medical College Hospital. He met patients and medical officers and also instructed the authorities to provide best treatment. The state witnessed an upsurge in dengue cases during the current spell of floods and waterlogging. As many as 1,150 dengue cases have been reported from hospitals across the state. Ravi Shankar Prasad said that the centre and the state government are working together to control the outbreak of diseases.
प्रदेश सरकार, भारत सरकार सब लोग मिलकर काम करेगी, कोई कमी नहीं होने दी जाएगी. हमारे पार्टी के कार्यकर्ताओं ने, युवा मोर्चा के कार्यकर्ताओं ने ये भी आग्रह किया है, किसी को ब्लड की आवश्यकता होगी वो ब्लड भी दिया जाएगा. हम लोग सब लोग इसीलिए घूम रहे हैं कि बाढ़ के बाद जो जनता ने बड़ी हिम्मत से बाढ़ की आपदा को झेला है, तो बीमारी से किसी को परेशानी नहीं हो, इसीलिए मैं यहाँ आया था.
Patna Medical College and Hospital Administration has clarified that the reports of dengue outbreak is false.
पटना मेडिकल कॉलेज में आज की तारीख में 16 मरीज भर्ती हैं और सबों का इलाज चल रहा है. डेंगू के बारे में जो एक भ्रांति फैल गई है कि ये पटना में महामारी के रूप में उभर कर सामने आई है, उसको पटना के बहादुर जनता ने और स्वास्थ्य विभाग की टीम ने और आपके जागरूकता ने झूठा प्रमाणित किया है. क्योंकि 26 तारीख से जब से पटना में पानी आया और पानी के जाने के बाद, जमाव के बाद, आज तक पटना मेडिकल कॉलेज में जो राज्य का शीर्ष अस्पताल है और पूरे बिहार से मरीज आते हैं, टोटल 119 मरीज यहाँ आए हैं. और इतनी बड़ी संख्या ये नहीं है क्योंकि सामान्यतः इन दिनों इसी संख्या में मरीज आते हैं.
Union HRD Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank will launch the Pradhan Mantri Innovative Learning Program Dhruv from the Indian Space Research Organization or ISRO headquarters at Bengaluru tomorrow. The objective of the program would be to allow talented students to realize their full potential and contribute to society. ISRO Chairman Dr. K. Sivan, first Indian to enter into space, Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma and Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Professor K. Vijay Raghavan will be the guests of honor on the occasion. The HRD Minister said that this kind of program will make India a better place for innovation. The new innovators will be helpful for the nation to achieve the target of $5 trillion economy in stipulated time by 2024. He also said that 60 outstandingly talented students have been selected in the first batch. After tomorrow's launch, the program of around 14 days duration will be conducted with these 60 with a valedictory function on the 23rd of October.
इस कार्यक्रम को हम ध्रुव कह रहे हैं, ध्रुव, और इन बच्चों को हम ध्रुव तारा कह करके पुकार सकते हैं। हमारी कोशिश है कि जो 10, 12, 14 दिन का जो ये अभियान है उनके साथ का, इस पूरे अभियान में वो विभिन्न क्षेत्रों का दर्शन करेंगे, परामर्श करेंगे, नया नवाचार करेंगे, कोई नई चीज़ को मंथन करके और अमृत निकालने की कोशिश करेंगे। और अंत में जो 23 तारीख को जो दिल्ली IIT में इसका जो समापन होना है, इस समापन के अवसर पर हमारी कोशिश है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी का भी आशीर्वाद इन ध्रुव सितारों को मिल सके, ध्रुव तारों को मिल सके।
Security forces in Assam arrested one Ulfa militant under special operation. The accused confessed that he was assigned to target security forces in the festive season. Arms and explosive devices have been recovered from him.
Delhi High Court grants CBI 2 more months to conclude investigation into bribery allegation against former CBI Special Director Rakesh Asthana, Deputy Superintendent of Police Devendra Kumar and others. High Court drafts CBI for seeking extension and adds that no further time will be granted to CBI. Security forces in Assam arrested one Ulfa militant under special operation. The accused confessed that he was assigned to target security forces in festive season. Arms and explosive devices have also been recovered. 10 people died in Dholpur region of Rajasthan on Tuesday while immersing statue in Parvati River. 7 bodies have been recovered. Search operation is underway. Delhi Gurudwara Management Committee has banned single-use plastic in 11 historic Gurudwaras, including Sishganj Sahib, Rakabganj Sahib and Nanak Piao Sahib. These 11 historic Gurudwaras are governed by DGMC.
So that was a look at newsroom regions, and now Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh, during his visit to France, addressed captains of the French defence industry in Paris, assuring them that India may consider further tax rationalisation to encourage investments through the Make in India route. Here's what transpired in Raksha Mantri's engagements in France today.
After the Rafale induction ceremony, the annual defence dialogue between Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and the French Minister for Armed Forces, Florence Parly, was yet another pointer that partnerships between the two countries is not limited to military hardware alone. The two sides have agreed to deepen the collaborations to make more areas like joint military exercises and other challenges of the geopolitical environment relevant. There are geopolitical determinants and interests that impact trade limits too in a variety of fields. When Defence Minister visited the Safran engine manufacturing unit on the outskirts of Paris, opportunities for collaborations for both military and civil aircraft engines unfurled. Besides manufacturing engines for fighter jets, this company controls over 50% of the global market for commercial aircraft engines. The company has already set up facilities in Hyderabad. Its CEO and other captains of industry who have gathered to meet the defense minister in Paris are showcasing the new opportunities of collaborations in India.
Primary aim of meeting today is to explore ways to strengthen our defense industrial partnership. I hope this event will provide a reaction to our pitch for Make in India and will be equally beneficial to you to engage with us.
Speaking to captains of French industries in Paris, Mr. Rajnath Singh said the government may consider rationalizing the taxes further to encourage investments through the Make in India route.
The opportunities have reached a new high. The Safran company that produces the engines for both the Rafale and Mirage fighter jets also manufactures the LEAP engines, the giant LEAP engines that go into the commercial aircraft like Boeing. Now this company wants to set up a hub in India as part of the Make in India drive. with Smriti Mahapatra, Rudranath Sanyal from the outskirts of Paris.
The 2019 Nobel Prize in Chemistry has been awarded to John B. Goodenough, M. Stanley Whittingham and Akira Yoshino for the development of lithium-ion batteries that revolutionized the world of technology. The batteries power everyday products such as smartphones, laptops and even electric vehicles. The work of this year's Chemistry Nobel laureates led to the development of a lightweight, hard-wearing battery that could be charged hundreds of times before its performance deteriorated. Turkey launched an assault on Kurdish positions in northern Syria on Wednesday, with airstrikes and explosions reported near the border. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced the start of the attack on Twitter, labeling it Operation Peace Spring. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that Turkish airstrikes had hit the Ras Al Ain area. Meanwhile, Syria's Kurds called up civilians to defend against the assault, while President Donald Trump insisted the U.S. had not abandoned its Kurdish allies, who were a crucial ally against the Islamic State. Trump was widely seen as giving a green light at the weekend, ordering the pullback of U.S. troops from the Turkey-Syrian border, which had served as a buffer. Russian President Vladimir Putin urged Erdogan to think carefully before any offensive in a phone call. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council's president has appealed to Turkey to protect civilians and exercise maximum restraint in its military operations in Syria. The UNSC chief expressed hope the council could meet quickly on the situation and stressed it was up to the drafters of the resolutions on Syria to convene such a session. In sports news, after a 203-run win against South Africa at Visakhapatnam, India would want to continue the dominant home run and seal the series with a win in the second test at Pune. On the other hand, the visitors would aim to secure the first win on Asian soil in 4 years and keep the series alive.
Improving on near perfection would be India's aim, while building on the small positives from a huge loss will be South Africa's focus when the two teams clash in the second test starting from Thursday. Virat Kohli's men ticked almost all boxes during their 203-run win in the opening encounter in Visakhapatnam, and they would like to maintain the same intensity in their bid to seal the series in Pune. It is difficult to improve upon a perfect show, but trust Kohli to find a new challenge for his team in his pursuit of excellence. Rohit Sharma's 2.0 blockbuster re-entry into Test arena as an opener with twin hundreds worked wonderfully well, with Mayank Agarwal also showing signs of making every chance count, as he did with his maiden double hundred in Visakhapatnam. India's opening woes, at least for the next 4 tests, have been taken care of. While India, unless forced by an unforeseen injury, are unlikely to change their playing 11, South Africa might be tempted to drop one among Senuraman Muthaswamy and Dane Pete, who were taken to the cleaners by the Indian batsmen. If Pete is dropped, the Proteas could be tempted to try Lungi Nigiri, who could make a difference with his pace and movement. The key for the Proteas would be to bat first and bat big, if they are to have any hopes of causing an upset. In any case, it will be an uphill battle for the visitors. Sports Desk, DT News.
And with that, we come to the close of this edition of Newsnight. Thanks for watching.